Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's Freddie again. We're just going to go into it. This is the iPad, and I mainly use the iPad more of a companion to what I'm already doing, like with a computer or with some other stuff. I don't really use the iPad just strictly by itself. I might use it by itself for sketching out ideas, but as far as full-on production, I don't really do that. And I'll get into why I don't use it fully towards the end of the video, kind of like my thoughts of using the iPad towards the end of the video. Okay, but before we get into some apps that I use on the daily, I just want to talk about some dongles that I actually use with the iPad. If there's one thing Apple is very infamous for, is the use of dongles with pretty much all their iPads and iPhones and MacBooks and whatever. You have to use a dongle with it, basically, to kind of unlock its full potential. But the Apple dongles directly from Apple are just way too fucking expensive. They're like $20 to $50 to $100, whatever, depending on what it is. And I think that's just ridiculous. You can actually go on Amazon or eBay or whatever and buy third-party dongles like this one, and it'll work with your iOS device. This one in particular I got off Amazon. It's basically just a female USB to Lightning connector, and this goes directly to like an iPad or an iPhone. And when you buy these like third-party dongles, ones that aren't directly from Apple, you just have to make sure that it works with your current iOS that's on your iPad or iPhone or whatever. So just kind of do a little bit of research as far as getting the correct dongle, because sometimes when you buy like the Chinese knockoffs or like these third-party ones, it'll work for a while, and then when you update the iOS, it'll stop working. So you have to just kind of make sure that it'll kind of work mainly with the current iOS that's running on your device. So yeah, USB to Lightning adapter. They mainly kind of advertise this as a camera kit, but you can use it for other things. I mainly use it for MIDI devices that I hook up directly to the iPad, as well as audio interfaces. So I have this Behringer USB audio interface, a really simple one. It has RCA ins and outs. I'm actually using it right now. But it's RCA ins and outs, and then on the other side there's like a regular USB connection, kind of like this at the very end. But it's plugged into the computer right now. This one in particular, this UFO 202, this one supports a turntable. So if you hook this up directly to your computer, you can rip vinyl if you really wanted to, or sample directly from vinyl. But I mainly use it just for the line input. If you follow me on Instagram, if you're wondering how I get like the audio pretty decent, especially when I'm doing posts, it's because I have this hooked up to this dongle basically, and it's going into my iPhone, and I'm just taking the audio in directly into my iPhone, and that's kind of how I capture the audio a little bit better. But yeah, you can use this basically if you even want to sample directly into the iPad. You can use this, or take the audio out from the iPad and hook it up to a mixer or something like that. You can do this along with this dongle. Here's a small little USB dongle that I got from like Fry's. This is mainly meant for computers, so it can have a line input and a microphone input and a line output. And you can use this as well. This just goes directly into the dongle, and then you hook this up to your iOS device, and then you can record directly, have an input going directly into the iPad as well as an output. So you would just have to configure that within the app that you're using as far as the recording goes. But most of the apps that I use default to this, so you can also use this. And this small little dongle from Fry's was like, I don't know, $5. And this one is from Sabrent is the brand. It's mainly meant for computers, but you can use it along with this. And then this one is the Behringer UFO 202. You can find these at like local music stores like Guitar Center or Sam Ash or Sweetwater or whatever. And they go for like, I don't know, $20 to $40. There's a few different models of this. I mainly got this one because it supports like turntables, and but I think they all kind of work the same. But I also use it as a line input. We'll just put that to the side. But yeah, go ahead and get into some apps. So here's my iPad. This is like, I guess the current generation iPad, like the iPad 6 generation or something like that. I also have an old iPad 2 that I actually use. I still use this, and I'll go over some apps that I use on here as well. But let's go into just like some free apps that I kind of use. What's cool about the iPad is you can hook a MIDI device directly to this using a dongle like this. Here, let me go ahead and just open up the app. So these are just like free synths. AudioKit, they make some great. Let me just zoom out here. They make some cool like free synths that you can just download from the App Store. Here's one. You can play it directly on the iPad like this, but I think it kind of sucks. But you can take a MIDI device like this. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Whoops. And then you can take your dongle that you have, or dongle that I have, and then connect it directly to the iPad. And then it'll support MIDI devices. I probably have to relaunch the app here. So here's one app that I use. It's called FM Player by AudioKit. Here's another one by AudioKit. Oh, no, this is a different one, I believe. Some cool patches on here. I won't go through all of them, but... And that was a free one. That's called DRC. Synth 1 is also by AudioKit. And... you can kind of just go through the sounds. Yeah. Of course, you can adjust all like the parameters and stuff like that. One app that I've been using for years is the Moog Mini Moog Model D. And this has a bunch of cool like presets. So this is it's basically like an emulator of the famous Mini Moog synth, mono synth. So what I do is I basically take the headphone out of the iPad, and then I just plug that into my audio interface on the computer, and then I just record directly from the iPad, just in audio form. But there's a lot of these newer apps, or these apps that have been kind of updated over the years. They do support MIDI through the network. So if you're on the same network as your computer, you can take like a program like Ableton and then sync up the MIDI via the network. I mean, there's a little bit of kind of configurations that you have to do from your computer as far as how the MIDI routing goes through the network, but you can do that. And like if you're keen to recording the MIDI data, but I just record the audio out. But yeah, like I said, you can use a MIDI keyboard for all this stuff. Here's some other apps that I actually use. Let's go ahead and disconnect this real quick and zoom back in here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Zoom in a little bit more. Okay. So here's some apps that I kind of just use by themselves without any kind of, I guess, MIDI keyboards or anything like that. Here's an app called Sampler. Some crazy stuff happening right now. So what's cool about this app, if you're kind of familiar with the Teenage Engineering OP1, this is kind of the same feel. Of course, it's a lot different, but the interface looks a little similar, and there's some cool things that you can do with this app. This is a paid app. on the App Store. So there's like different like little, I guess, sections or parameters that you can kind of do to chopping samples. And this is one of the like the preloaded presets or whatever, samples. And you can kind of just use your finger to play stuff in reverse. You can have the chops from like a 4-beat region or an 8 region, 16 and 32. And this one, I believe, is maybe the velocity. I don't remember. And this is one is kind of like a looper. As you can see, I'm kind of changing the things from up here. And then you can kind of like do this stuff. And then this is like a, kind of like a forward and reverse kind of playing sample thing. I'll just put this in 8. So if I hit it from the left, it'll play the sample in reverse. And when I move it more to the right, the middle would be kind of like the midpoint, I guess. And then if you go on to the right side of it, it plays it forward. So you can kind of do cool stuff like that. And this is, some of the stuff I don't really know what it is exactly. And then this is more like playing it kind of like keys, but it starts it from the beginning of the sample. So some cool stuff you can do on here. I mean, I won't go super in depth with this because I don't use this too much, but it's kind of like this cool kind of like sketching thing. But yeah, that's sampler. Another app that I use is called Chordion. This is kind of like a, if you're familiar with the omnichord, that instrument from, I don't even know, the 70s or 80s, it's kind of like the same thing. So it kind of slices notes for you in chords, and then you can play along with it. So you can do stuff like this. And then you can play along with it. And you can also change the sounds and stuff here. Let me go here. Let's go. And you can also change like how the thing is like laid out here. So major key with 7th chords, major chords. You know, you can change a whole bunch of stuff on here. But this is called Chordion, and some cool stuff. It has some cool presets too. Yeah. And then I'm trying to think what else I use on here. I use the iMPC Pro 2. What's great about this app is you can sketch out an idea on here, and then you can export your project as a like MPC software file. So I can sketch out an idea on here and then export it and then open it up on the MPC software or open it up on my MPC Live. That's a great thing. What I really don't like about this app is it's not backwards compatible, meaning like I can't make a beat on the MPC software or my MPC Live, save that, and then import it into the iPad app. It doesn't work the other way around, which kind of sucks. The other thing I don't like about this app is it looks nothing like the MPC software, and it looks nothing like the MPC Live or MPC X interface. It's completely different. It's like making a beat on a completely different piece of software. What I think Akai did was just had like some other company basically build the app from the ground up, and then they just slapped the Akai and MPC name on it, which is, I think, kind of stupid. It would be great if it was like more seamless, like the integration from the computer software or the firmware on the MPC Live and X and the iPad. I think it should all kind of work together. I guess that's the same thing you can say with the machine app as well as the machine software. It's kind of different as well. But yeah, what I do is I kind of sketch ideas out on here on the iPad, and then I export it and then open it up on the MPC software. But you know, you can do kind of like almost the same stuff you can do on an MPC. Chop samples, you know, whatever. So this is the beat I have on here. I don't even know if it's a good beat. That's a stupid beat, but whatever. But yeah. With a lot of these like kind of production work stations on the iPad, they kind of they make you buy expansion packs basically, so you can download samples from their store. For this one, this is kind of like audio paste, where you can get like samples, or audio copy where you can get samples from their store and then download it. Some cool things you can do on here is you can record in with a mic or like with an audio interface, or you can also take samples off Spotify. So I have my Spotify account on here, and you can resample like a turntable, which I think is, I guess it kind of is cool if you have the patience for that. But I'll go into something at the very end why I think like the iPad is kind of like sucky as far as making music. But yeah, this is MPC software. You know, you can kind of mix and edit all the MIDI data and stuff like that on here. But like I said, it looks nothing like the MPC software on the computer and the MPC software on the Live and the X. It's kind of like a completely different piece of software. Of course, this is what pretty much everybody uses. They use Beatmaker 3. This is the app that I would recommend as far as making beats on an iPad. You can come in, you can drag and drop samples. They also have a store just like the MPC where you can purchase sample kits and stuff like that. I don't even know what this is. Let's play it, shall we? Oops. Let's let it play. Just some drums, I think. Yeah, and then you can go in and kind of like do all your chopping here, which is kind of cool. And then, you know, adjust any parameters that you need within the chops. This is your MIDI, pretty much your song, kind of just like how a regular DAW works, very linear. And then your mixer, which is pretty much how most DAW works. You can insert stuff. What's cool about this, I think, as well as the MPC software, is you can come in, like say to the main out, and you can, let me see. You can add effects, kind of like VSTs. Oops, this is a MIDI effect. I want the main out here. So right now I have like a compressor on here. This is like the built-in stuff. You can also add like audio units, which you can download directly from the Apple App Store that are compatible with this stuff. So here's some stuff from MSX. You know, they make a bunch of sample packs as well as plugins, as well as audio effects racks with Ableton. Some cool guys there at MSX. This is kind of like just like one of their saturators. some different sets here. So you can add effects. Go ahead and just delete this one. They also have this fly tape effect, kind of like how just a bunch of effects. And kind of like a warping thing. Yeah, some cool stuff. Haven't really delved too deep into it, but that's the cool thing about this. You can kind of add like external effects or third-party plugins as well as their own kind of plugins on here. And then you can also link this with Ableton as long as you're in the same network, and kind of do stuff on there as well, which is kind of what I like. Yeah. Yeah, you can go in their store as well, I believe. I forgot how to get there. But yeah, you can go onto here. Their shop, sorry. And then you can download a bunch of, or purchase a bunch of like drum kits and sample kits and stuff like that. It's not a very stacked store, but it's there's a lot of cool stuff on there. But yeah, that's Beatmaker 3. I think it's better than the MPC. I think it's MPC's app as well as the machine app. I think it's a little bit better. But yeah, those are like the main ones that I use on my iPad as far as just strictly making music on the iPad. I mean, like I said, the synths are more like companion apps. I use those more as kind of like digital synths. Like I said, I hook up a keyboard directly into my iPad and then kind of play out on the keyboard and just record the audio out. Beatmaker 3 is like the one that I use for mainly for production. Like actually if I'm going to be on a plane for a while or somewhere else where I'm away from the studio and I only have my iPad, I'll use that. MPC is just for basically just sketching out simple things, and then once I get like a skeleton of that, I'll export it and then move it onto the MPC software or my MPC Live. Okay, the next few apps I'm going to talk about are basically companion apps that I use along with my computer. So I'm going to go ahead and switch cameras just so you can kind of see what's going on in the computer as well as the iPad.